But at the same time, we should also try to look into the inequalities that drive urbanization or hinder urbanization. So from that perspective, socio-occupational inequalities would also become very important. And another observation, is just an observation in the question that came to my mind is, what should be the most important sphere of the space of inequality that we should be concerned with? Should it be income or some other space? So even within the economic sphere, there could be other areas of inequality that we could be concerned with, for example, consumption or occupational inequalities, you know. The other thing that I would like to mention is inequality the right space for us to be concerned with? Or should it be, we be more concerned about mobility, let's say as an alternative concept to inequality? Because if people are moving upwardly, if there is upward mobility in various spheres of life, in the economic sphere, in the sphere of health and education, should we be really concerned whether about the gap between various population groups, between types of residents, by caste, religion, whatever, you know, the background variables. So these are some of the things that we should also think about, and I mean, I've just some ideas to throw open to you. So questions? Yeah, please.
This is to Mr. Wan. Very good points you have put across, but you know, I'm just sharing the view that, you know, firstly, the contexts of countries are different, and what may have succeeded in China may not be applicable, especially because of the political structure we have. Second issue is, as far as inequity is concerned, this is again my personal view, and is that globalization per se, wherein we move from industrial economy to a knowledge economy. And technology has become very, very important, wherein the niche technologies ensure that the skill sets keep reducing from the number of people. Maybe if 100 could do, now it comes down to 10. So these people will always have more incomes, and since they have the skill set, so the profits per se of the corporations go up, and more people are getting underemployed stroke unemployed. So my question to Mr. Wan would be, don't you think this globalization, what we've seen, requires a revisit? Because I would like to know, other than China, post 1991, which is a country where the Gini coefficient has indicated inequity being reduced. Thank you.
Could collect some questions and then move on. Yeah.
My question is for Dr. Wan. That chart that you showed on inequalities and urbanization, which showed that there seems to be a negative correlation between inequalities and urbanization now in the present state. But if we look at inequalities within the urban areas, then how does that, I mean, how does the chart come out to be now? Has urbanization led to greater inequalities within urban areas? And are you suggesting that urbanization is a solution for inequalities in that case?
Thank you. One question is to Mr. Matthias Helmle. You know, this question about social inequality and the health inequality, I think I feel that it should be desegregated in one way. I think the issue in terms of health inequality really is not so much in terms of social inequality, but of poverty. I mean, if you reach a certain minimum income level, then the health services are accessible to you. But if below that level, obviously they're not accessible to you, and all the things that you mentioned about BMI, weight, and so on and so forth, all that naturally sort of comes up, I mean, sort of becomes relevant. The second thing, of course, is the other thing, of course, as you rightly mentioned, is lifestyle issue. So I think the focus really in this sense really would not be in that sense social inequality, but elimination of poverty or reduction of poverty, because that is the factor which will actually have an impact as far as reducing the health inequality is concerned. And to Mr. Wan, I have one point to make. I think inequality by itself is not such a bad thing, because it gives people the drive to close the inequality gap. And as you mentioned, Mr. Ali Mehdi, that it is the trigger for social mobility. I think the issue really is the access to opportunity. That really is the issue. And of course, whether inequality is destabilizing or whatever, that also depends on the communities, the social values, the political system, and so on and so forth. So urbanization per se is not the solution. And in fact, we are going through a kind of process on urbanization, which actually is causing this kind of, let's say, this particular instability factor, so to say, because it's putting pressure on the urban infrastructure. And at the same time, the inability of the government to rejuvenate or re-energize the agriculture sector. Perhaps the solution to this could be, as I see, is to reverse the migration flows, not to actually accelerate the migration flows to the urban areas, but to reverse it by building expressways, because that's how we provide better connectivity. And what that actually means is that the rural economies get transformed by the fact that you easier access the urban, let's say urban inhabitants, the citizens, the industrialists, educationists, the elite, and so on and so forth, have better access to rural areas. And rural people have better access to all the, let's say, opportunities which the urban people enjoy. And thereby, it addresses the issue of pressure on the urban infrastructure, of crime, and so on and so forth. Also, at the same time, transform the rural economy. Because in that case, the opportunities, what's the problem in the rural area? The problem is lack of opportunity, lack of jobs. The the agriculture productivity is low. Therefore, the income levels rise very slowly. But if you reverse the migration flows through these expressways, you actually transform the rural economy, because more hospitals come there, more education institutions come there, and so on and so forth. And therefore, the skills change, and the pattern of economic production in the rural area changes. Thank you.
I think I just couldn't help but want to answer the last question, because this question has been asked probably by hundreds of audience when I talk about urbanization. I just want to, Indian government, they try to stop the urbanization for many years, even until today. That's something, in the past, I supported that kind of strategy very much. But you tell me, so that's why I've been asking the stage, never grow as fast as the manufacturing and the service sectors. So that's why I don't think, we can have a wish, have a dream, but that's kind of economic law. Because of rural sector is constrained by land, by diminishing returns to land, and also, more importantly, actually by this sort of demand for food, which is the most important part of the rural sector. So, we know that in the longer run, the demand for other things, you can never meet them, but for food, to some extent, it doesn't mean we don't have food security problem, but in the long run. So where are the jobs? Even in India, you try a lot to try to stimulate the growth in rural sectors. China does a lot as well, and mind you, in China, they not only, actually, what they did is they realized rural sector will not create much growth, not jobs. So they said, don't go to the big cities, go to small towns. So in China, they don't really call it urbanization. There's an urban antagonization, which I don't like it, but I have to use it if I want to talk in China. But now, in the last few years, they realize these small towns, they don't have jobs. They provide free housing, nobody goes there. What do? You can't fit yourself, you have housing. In big cities, they don't have free housing. We have this huge problem in China, housing. But they go to the big cities. Why? Because they can manage. They can get by. So I just want to ask you, where are the jobs? On this Puva's question on this urbanization and inequality within urban areas, it's actually a general rule. Urban inequality actually increases or higher than rural inequalities. But the trouble is, for a national government, you got to really try to balance this urban-rural gap and with within and rural and within urban inequalities. So you got to really look at the bigger picture. But you are right. Urban inequality typically higher than rural inequality, and as urbanization proceeds, usually urbanization will increase. That's why in one of the two messages saying really try to contain within urban inequality. Yeah. So you are right. Then the first question on globalization and inequality, actually I published a paper in 2007 in Review of Income and Wealth, exactly called Inequality and Globalization in China. Well, I guess it's, if you look at the numbers, definitely globalization will lead to higher inequality because globalization provides opportunities, and we know that once they have opportunities, not everybody can grab that. Somebody grabbed it earlier or later, somebody couldn't grab it. That's where the inequality will increase. But on the other hand, globalization gives jobs to hundreds of millions of Chinese, at least Chinese migrants, we know that. And that's helped to lift the poverty, many people out of poverty. So it's kind of, globalization is good, but on the other hand, it does cause some other problems. So it's not a sort of panacea.
I didn't fully understand the question, but I just want to highlight that, health is becoming now a human right, and already in the constitution of WHO, which is from 1946, they say the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being without distinction of race, religion, political belief, economic or social condition. So it's just to highlight, of course, it's a question of poverty, but I think every human being should have the right to good health and, if possible, to the highest attainable standard.
Can I ask a quick question from who was happier, the urban people or the rural people?
Are you asking based on evidence? Or?
I was asking Mr. Matthias, who was happier, the rural people or the urban people in Indonesia, based on this?
We didn't look at this question, but there are studies from China that show that rural people enjoy a bit more of happiness.
That would be in India also.
As per WHO, spiritual health is a part of health. So whether you have taken spiritual health in consideration? Spiritual health. In WHO, it is considered as a part of
It says overall well-being, it's emotional, social well-being. It doesn't really say spiritual health.
So also WHO says health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being. So I hope it includes spiritual health.
But spirituality may be a big driver to, all these levels of health that WHO talks about.
Hello. I think everybody is aware of the fact that 21st June was celebrated as the International Day of Yoga. Now, this yoga system of mental, spiritual, physical well-being, it can reduce the cost of keeping people healthy on the governmental level, also family level. Are you aware of this fact? Because it has been accepted by all the nations in the United Nations as yoga to be beneficial to human beings, to keep fit physically, mentally and spiritually. What is your opinion? Asking to the panel.
We'll just take one last question and then we have to conclude. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
Both papers are related. I will ask a question either to you or now. My first question is a clarificatory question. In China, one of the most important aspects of labor mobility is the floating population. According to the data I have seen in China's statistical yearbook, from about the amount of workers moved from rural area to urban area from about 1992 to about was about 140 million, right? And according to what I have learned from your friend Singman, urban household surveys do not properly capture these workers. And it could have a little bit exaggerated your equality figures for urban sector, because these people, mainly because of the hookah system, the household registration constraint, are employed doing very low wage, engaged in low wage employment. If they are excluded from urban employment data, then the figures should have exaggerated urban equality. I have a second more fundamental question. Why you focus only on equity? Why not poverty? In other words, your focus is on relative poverty, but I think at this level of income, absolute poverty is equally important. And again, if you have a discussion about absolute poverty, differences between China and India, it would have added a very important policy message to the picture. It is true that during the communist regime, income levels were equal in China mostly, but 49% of people lived in poverty, right? Everybody were living, sleeping on a mat. Therefore, this is not something to celebrate, right? But after the liberalization reform, poverty rate declined from 49 to almost 9%. And urbanization would have played a role. In India, growth rate was more or less similar, but the poverty rate decline has been much slower. Then why that difference occurred is a very important policy issue. Again, when it comes to health outcome, absolute poverty is the relative variable, not relative poverty. Whether